The senator from Cancun, Ted Cruz, blames Antifa and Black Lives Matter for protests over the summer, but won't blame Trump for a riot and insurrection on January 6th. It's weird. Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Thom Hartmann here with you. A whole bunch of other stuff in the news. Right now, Christopher Wray is testifying before the Senate. And I watched it for about an hour. It's getting quite repetitive, which is the reason why we're not carrying it live right now. Basically, you had senators like Ted Cruz going, well, you know, there were 14,000 black people who were arrested in these Black Lives Matter protests throughout 2020, and you've only arrested 300 people in the Capitol. Seems like we got a bigger problem with all these black people and Black Lives Matter people and Antifa people in America, you know, and you had more than 700 police officers who were injured during all those riots all across America. I mean, you know, it's basically the Fox News story, right? And the majority of the arrests that happened during the Black Lives Matter protests following George Floyd's murder were not people being arrested for riot. They were not people being arrested for trying to bring down the government. They were not people being arrested for trying to beat on police officers. Mostly it was people who got kettled. They were arrested for trespassing. They were arrested for being, you know, in the streets and blocking traffic. You know, they were mostly nuisance arrests of the police officers who were injured. Many of them, I don't have the specific statistics in front of me right now, but many of them were injured by their own stuff, by their own tear gas and things like that. Yes, there are some folks on the left who believe that bringing down the whole system is the best way to bring about institutional change in America. To paraphrase Dwight Eisenhower, their number is small and they are stupid. But they are, by and large, and I knew folks like this. In fact, I was on the edge of folks like this back in the 60s. They created the Weather Underground and ran around and blew up buildings. Look at the wonderful results it produced, right? Nixon's Law and Order. It's just, you know, yeah, that's there, but it's pretty inconsequential. And most of it boils down to tagging buildings and smashing windows. And even that is really, really limited. I mean, we've got a couple of square blocks of Portland where this happened and a few square blocks of Seattle. And Fox News has tried to turn this into a nationwide massive uprising by Antifa and Black Lives Matter folks, with the emphasis on the word black. And so that was what we were hearing from the Republican senators today. They kept trying to get Chris Wray to say this, and he kept saying, well, you know, we're not saying... And so, you know, finally Chris Coons came along, and this was maybe 10 minutes ago, and said, let's just be clear. You know, you know, in the January 6th attack on the Capitol, which is the focus of this hearing, were there any Black Lives Matter people? No. Any Antifa people? No. Any of them involved in the planning? No. Who was it? Well, it was mostly white supremacists and the so-called militia movement who are anti-government. So, anyhow, I just gave you the the essence of what's going on. And as I said, the reason why we're not carrying it live, because it has gotten, you know, very, very repetitious. Well, and Chris Wray isn't the guy I want to hear from. The guy I want to hear from is Chris Miller. I want to hear from the acting Secretary of Defense, who issued the stand-down order on January 5th saying to the National Guard in D.C., you may not show up. And if you do show up, you may not arrest people, you may not use tear gas, you may not share your equipment with the Capitol Police, and you may not do basically anything to stop that crowd until you hear from me. And then repeatedly during a 6-hour period, there were multiple attempts by members of Congress and others to reach the acting Secretary of Defense, Chris Miller, and say, please release the National Guard, put a stop to this. And he kept going, well, I don't really, call me back in an hour, let's talk. And, you know, what's fairly clear to me is that what was going on was that Donald Trump engineered this thing, that the conspiracy meeting that they had with Tommy Tuberville and Don Jr. and all these guys at the Trump Hotel the night before on January 5th played a role in it. And I want to get right to that stuff. You know, this, let's have the FBI director come in and recite statistics to us. Come on, let's cut to the chase. Okay, number one. And, this is, in fact, Tucker Carlson told his audience, this was night before last, the attack did not constitute an armed insurrection, and he accused Democrats of relentless and coordinated campaigns to misrepresent that January 6th riot. And, of course, you all saw Ron Johnson, just lying through his teeth about it. The For the People Act is being amended right now in the House. In all probability, they will have a vote on it tomorrow. Amendment 84 restores voting rights to people with felony convictions nationwide. Amendment 157 includes early voting locations on college campuses. Amendment 26 blocks the Postal Service from any changes that slow delivery of ballots 120 days before elections. And Amendment 22 lowers the voting age to 16. So that debate is going on right now in the House. I think that's frankly more consequential.